Hello and a warm welcome. This is the news on NTA International, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. You can watch this news live on the social media platform displayed on your screen. My name is Justin Bemwe and Zemuna is our sign language interpreter. First, let's look at the headlines. President Bola Tinubu embarks on diplomatic shuttle to Kingdom of Netherlands and Saudi Arabia. Federal government canvasses a multi-stakeholder approach in ongoing efforts to combat challenges of malnutrition in Nigeria. And Senegal's President Bassirou Diomaye Faye advocates an improved relationship between Africa and the EU. Now, President Bola Tinubu has departed Abuja for the Kingdom of the Netherlands on an official visit on the invitation of the Prime Minister of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. President Tinubu will engage in high-level discussions with the Prime Minister as well as hold separate meetings with King Willem Alexander and Queen Maxima of the Kingdom. The Queen is the United Nations Secretary General's Special Advocate for Inclusive Finance for Development. While in the Netherlands, the President will participate in the Nigerian-Dutch Business and Investment Forum that will bring together heads of conglomerates and organizations in both countries to explore opportunities for collaboration and partnerships, especially in agriculture and water management, towards innovative solutions for sustainable farming practices. There will also be extensive discussions with the Dutch officials and port management operations, for which they have world-renowned expertise. After his engagements in the Netherlands, the President will proceed to attend a special World Economic Forum meeting scheduled for April 28 to 29th in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. At the World Economic Forum meeting, which focuses on global collaboration, growth and energy for development, President Tinubu and his entourage will use the opportunity for the gathering of over 1,000 leaders from business, government and academia to engage in discussions in furtherance of his renewed hope agenda for the country. The President is being accompanied by some ministers and other senior government officials. Now, to achieve the desired level of nation building and peace building, there must be that move to kick out of business those who deliberately create fake news in the information ecosystem amid good governance. Now, this came out of a national fact-finding training course at the instance of the Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution and other partners.
Very crucial in crisis management. It's about building bridges and not walls.
It is a strategic training course targeted at equipping government officials, civil society organizations, security operatives, community leaders, and media practitioners with the requisite knowledge, skills, and tools to fight the dreaded phenomenon of fake news in the polity for sustainable peace, stability, and socio-economic development. This enlightenment comes with a great concern that the information ecosystem has continued to be polluted with fake news, impacting negatively on intelligence, peace, security and stability of the nation.
This is very, very key, to peace building. It's very, very key to state building. It's very, very key to nation building. Because if we don't stem it, we don't nip them at the bud, they're going to distort us, they're going to continue to polarize us, they're going to continue to create levels of distrust, and all that. And then people will not enjoy the democratic dividends that is necessary. So if we must move towards achieving Mr. President's 8 priority areas, national fact-checking, in terms of the right information at the right time, right responses at the right time, all those skills, are needed by practitioners in the public space, in the private space, and in the civil society space for us to get our country in shape.
A direct message to every leadership, especially in crisis management as it concerns addressing false information, was hinged on building trust and embracing emotional intelligence.
The reason why there's a lot of false information and fake information out there is because leaders have not built trust with the followers. It's your job to build trust with them and tell them the truth on what's really going on. Even if somebody else will tell them lies on the situation. And I think nobody knows best what's happening in an organization than the leader. So be very transparent with information. That way fake news will not thrive if leaders are transparent with information and they build trust with the followers.
The training course is a tripartite initiative from the Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution, IPCR, Tom Rook iHub Multiverse, and Dakris Benik Foundation for Unity and Development in Africa, DAFUDA. Accountability framework for enhancement of compliance with human rights tenets and peacekeeping operations is now a standard practice as formulated by the United Nations. Now, this has necessitated the African Union and ECOWAS to evaluate their joint regional framework to bring it at par with global practices. And Calvin Eonuaye now reports.
It is a high-level meeting of the Strategic Steering Committee of the AU, EU, United Nations and ECOWAS Partnership Project for compliance with international accountability protocols for troops during peacekeeping operations at the continental and regional levels. For ECOWAS, the review is coming in handy at a time the regional body is about to operationalize its standby force to combat terrorism in affected countries. While pledging continued support for AU and ECOWAS missions, the UN and EU are concerned about human rights abuses, and this review of the Code of Operation is aimed at eliminating factors that make such behavior by troops to thrive.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu just declared open a high-level meeting on counter-terrorism. And the effort is that we need champions to fight the fight against terrorism. But in fighting the fight against terrorism, the African Union and its partners, ECOWAS and all other RECs, are saying clearly that the mainstreaming of human rights will be central to the fight against terrorism.
The UN has adopted a resolution 2719, which enjoins the UN to support African-led peace operations with access contribution. Access contribution meaning the monies member states contribute to the UN. So will be automatically 75% of it will be dedicated, to African-led peace operation.
At the end of the three-day meeting, the current AU-ECOWAS document on protection of civilians and Code of Rules of Engagement for troops, first used in Somalia peacekeeping missions, will be amended. In Abuja, Kelvin Eonuaye, NTA News.
And the United Kingdom is set to start detaining migrants within days for deportation to Rwanda after a controversial plan got Parliament's approval. However, this sparked outrage from the United Nations and rights group. Uche completes the report.
The ayes have it.
The new legislation, a flagship policy of the Conservative government, aims to curb irregular cross-Channel migration from northern France, cleared its final hurdle after a marathon late-night parliamentary tussle on Monday. Just hours later, French police said at least 5 migrants, including a child, died overnight during an attempt to cross the busy shipping lane in a small boat. Under the UK scheme, undocumented asylum seekers arriving in Britain would be sent to Rwanda, where their asylum claims would be examined and, if approved, would allow them to stay in Rwanda. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak says deportations are expected to begin within 10 to 12 days, with migrants identified for the first flight due to be detained and held from as early as this week.
We've put an airfield on standby, booked commercial charter planes for specific slots, and we have 500 highly trained individuals ready to escort illegal migrants all the way to Rwanda, with 300 more trained in the coming weeks.
Rwanda said it was pleased to see the bill passed and was looking forward to welcoming those relocated to Rwanda. However, heads of the UN agencies for refugees and human rights warned
this new legislation seriously hinders the rule of law in the UK, and it sets a perilous precedent globally.
And we think that that is inconsistent with global solidarity and responsibility sharing, and is also in breach of the 1951 Refugee Convention, to which the UK is, of course, a signatory.
This judgment is devastating for the refugees. This is a brutal policy.
They urged the UK to instead take practical measures to address irregular flows of refugees and migrants based on international cooperation and respect for international human rights law. The Council of Europe also called for the new law to be scrapped and said it raised major issues about the human rights of asylum seekers and the rule of law generally. In a similar development, leaders of Tunisia, Algeria and Libya at the end of a consultative meeting in Tunis have agreed to work together to ensure the protection of common borders against the risks and consequences of irregular migration. Uche Ugochukwu, NTA News.
Senegal's President Bassirou Diomaye Faye has called for a reconsidered relationship with the EU during a visit by European Council President Charles Michel. Uche Ugochukwu again tells us more.
Newly elected Senegalese President Bassirou Diomaye Faye met with European Council President Charles Michel in Dakar. Speaking to the press after their meeting, Faye made it clear that any ongoing cooperation and partnership with the EU would be rethought, renewed and enriched by a shared vision of a fairer international order that reflects the realities of today's world. Faye, who was inaugurated as president on April 2, was elected on pledges of radical reform and promises to restore national sovereignty over key industries. At an earlier joint press conference with Michel, Faye said cooperation between Senegal and Europe was dense and multifaceted, but they want a renewed partnership that is capable of supporting the innovative dynamics they want to imprint on their relations. As part of his promised reforms, Faye recently announced the renegotiation of oil and gas contracts and hopes to do same with fishing agreements signed with the European Union. Faye said his government would pursue a model of boosting development from within, focusing on agriculture, livestock and fishing, while also strengthening infrastructure such as railways, electrical grids, telecommunications and roads. Michel said Europe has an objective interest in Senegal being able to meet the challenges of development, economic emergence and improvement of the living conditions of the people. Uche Ugochukwu, NTA News.
And again, Uche Ugochukwu reports that the Chinese government has issued its highest level rainstorm warning and evacuated more than 100,000 people as rain continues to hit the south of the country.
Raised the alert on Tuesday as ongoing storms threaten to worsen already massive flooding in Guangdong province. 4 people were reported killed over the weekend, while 10 others are missing. Torrential rains have been swelling rivers in Guangdong, prompting the state media to warn of the risk of floods at a level seen around once a decade. Guangdong is China's manufacturing heartland, home to about 127 million people. Authorities in the coastal city of Shenzhen, China's 3rd largest city, said as the red alert was issued that residents should quickly take precautions. Reports say climate change driven by human-emitted greenhouse gases makes extreme weather events more frequent and intense. China is the world's biggest emitter. In recent years, China has been hit by severe floods, grinding droughts and record high temperatures. Authorities were swift to respond, lowering the number of casualties compared with previous decades. Shenzhen experienced in September last year its heaviest rains since 1952. The nearby semi-autonomous city of Hong Kong saw its heaviest rainfall in nearly 140 years. Asia was the world's most disaster-hit region from climate and weather hazards in 2023, according to a report issued by the United Nations on Tuesday, with floods and storms a major cause of casualties and economic loss. Uche Ugochukwu, NTA News.
Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu has called on traditional rulers to sustain their support for the government, describing them as critical stakeholders in nation building. She said this at Osun State House, Osogbo, where she met with traditional rulers in the state, led by the Ooni of Ife, Oba Eniton Adeye Ogunwusi. The First Lady, who is in Osogbo to perform the groundbreaking ceremony for the alternative high school for girls, applauded the traditional rulers for supporting the current administration by advancing the cause of peace and progress in their respective domains. While Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke appreciated the First Lady for choosing the state as the pilot for her transformative intervention in the educational sector. The Oni of Ife described her as a unifier who is building bridges across the and beyond party lines. Turning the sword for the special school is already generating a lot of excitement in the state, where it is expected to provide girls who dropped out of school for various reasons with another opportunity to acquire functional education. You're watching the news on NTA International. We take a break now. The news continues in a moment. Stay with us. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has taken into its custody the former Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, in connection with an ongoing investigation related to alleged money laundering to the tune of 8 billion naira. The ex-Minister of Aviation made an appearance at the EFCC following an invitation extended to him by the Anti-Graft Commission. Hadi Sirika is presently assisting the EFCC investigators on the alleged fraudulent contracts he allegedly authorized to a company where he has vested interest. Hadi Sirika will be arraigned in court soon. And the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja has ordered the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, to serve the court processes regarding the alleged 80 billion naira money laundering charge against the former governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, on his counsel, Abdul Wahab Mohammed. The presiding judge, Justice Emeka Nwite, gave the order in a ruling following the absence of the former governor in court for his arraignment in the matter. Justice Nwite cited that Section 384, subsections 4 and 5 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015 held that since it was becoming almost impossible to effect personal service of the legal processes on the defendant, such could be done through substituted means. The court adjourned to the 10th of May for ruling on the application filed by Yahaya Bello through his counsel seeking vacation of an arrest warrant issued against him by the court on the 17th of April 2024. The EFCC had earlier declared the former governor Yahaya Bello wanted as a result of the matter. Meanwhile, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has denied the insinuation of disobeying any court order relating to matters on the prosecution of former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello. In a statement issued in Abuja, the Commission's Acting Director, Public Affairs, Wilson Uwojaren, EFCC, pointed out that though Yahaya Bello sought refuge in a fundamental rights enforcement action through an order granted by Justice Isa Jamil Abdullahi of the High Court of Kogi State, the order did not render legally ineffective an order made by the Federal High Court for the arrest of the former governor of the purpose of his arraignment. The EFCC explained that the order of the High Court of Kogi State only granted a leave to enforce Bello's right to personal liberty and freedom of movement, which did not preclude the Federal High Court to make any order as it may deem just in the determination of the rights of the applicant and the respondent as may be submitted to it for consideration and determination. He further stressed that the order made by the Federal High Court for the arrest of Yahaya Bello for the purpose of his arraignment was not in conflict with the order of the High Court of Kogi State. EFCC maintained that the case before the Federal High Court in Abuja was a criminal charge different from the fundamental rights enforcement action that is the subject of an appeal. Nigeria's power sector is currently begging for reforms as the Bola Tinubu-led administration is on the verge of procuring an additional 3 gigawatts of solar energy source across 25 states of the Federation. Now, this formed the basis of an interactive dialogue between the National Assembly and key players in the power sector. Joshua Ogunjide reports.
Assenting Electricity Act 2023 is reassuring, as such legislative framework has worked its path to decentralize electricity market, allowing states to have say in the industry. Morris in the workshop was convened to have a dialogue on the significance of power in engendering national development.
We aim to provide a dynamic platform for stakeholders to evaluate the progress made thus far in the electricity supply industry development. We will dive into the successes, challenges and opportunities encountered along the journey, seeking to identify key areas for improvement and innovations.
We believe that the new tariff regime, which is a hybrid of the subsidized regime and the cost-reflective regime. I don't even call it cost-reflective. It is called service-reflective regime, because if you cannot supply power to a minimum number of hours, you cannot charge it.
Having the power to set tariff policy within state borders also comes with the responsibility of paying tariff shortfalls and subsidies that emanate from these policies. It comes with the responsibility of state governments guaranteeing payments to the national wholesale electricity market.
The summit was declared open by Speaker Tajuddin Abbas.
Section 34 of the Act specifically provides the function of the NERC to include, among others, to ensure that the prices charged by the licensee are fair to consumers and are sufficient to allow licensees to finance their activities and to allow for reasonable profits for efficient operation, and to ensure that regulation is fair and balanced for customers.
The Senate has already instituted an investigative hearing in the new electricity.
With over 100 uncompleted transmission projects across the country, stakeholders among whom was Professor Bath Naji, former Minister of Power, advocated food industrialization of the sector. From the National Assembly, Joshua Ogwechidi, NTA News.
The federal government has reiterated its readiness to partner with the Borno State government to enhance food security, leveraging on the irrigation and river basin potentials in the state. Minister of Water Resources and Sanitation, Professor Joseph Telu Munutsev, gave the assurance while hosting Governor of Borno State, Professor Babagana Zulum, for a courtesy visit.
Prof. Yusuf have on efforts of the federal government and development partners in the area of sustainable urban and rural water sanitation and hygiene and other programs in dams and irrigation projects to accelerate their timely implementation at the grassroots. He emphasized government's readiness to support state in addressing their water and sanitation needs and assured Governor Zulum that his ministry was fully prepared to assist Borno State in enhancing agriculture through irrigation system and water schemes. The minister expressed appreciation for the governor's visit and urged state government to actively participate in these life-changing programs for the collective benefit of all Nigerians. Governor Babagana Zulum highlighted that the visit aimed to seek collaboration with the Ministry of Water Resources and Sanitation to harness the rich agricultural potential of the state and revive its irrigation potentials. Appeal to the federal government to take advantage of the vast irrigable land in Borno State and fast-track the partnership for irrigation purposes. Osmansville, NTA News.
Now, next on our lineup is Sports Update with Gift George as our guide.
Minister of Sports Development John Eno says what Nigerian sportsmen and women need to win more laurels for the country is to be recognized and appreciated for their efforts in bringing glory to the land. The minister made this remark at the maiden edition of the Yucateco Boxing Awards in Lagos. Tagged Celebrating Our Heroes in Boxing, the gathering brought together top government officials, sports administrators, retired and serving coaches, and other boxing enthusiasts in the country.
It's the sense of appreciation by government and by Nigerians. So Ministry of Sports Development is concerned with two things that we found displayed and demonstrated here. One is the welfare of our athletes, both retired athletes and those who are currently informed.
I'm happy and I believe the young talent and they are now inspired. They know no matter how much hard work they put in and the height they achieve, sometimes somewhere through the government or through private individuals, right, the time for honor and recognition is coming.